My parents kicked me out on my 18th birthday for my pregnant sister. Now I'm thriving without them, part 1. My name is Emily, and on the day I turned 18, I got evicted from my own home. Not because of something I did wrong, but because my parents decided that my pregnant older sister deserved my room more than I did. You'd think the kind of thing happens in fiction or maybe on those extreme reality shows. But for me, it was just Tuesday. Growing up, I knew I wasn't exactly part of the plan. My parents, Mark and Linda, always made offhand comments about me being their midlife surprise. And my sister Jessica, who's 14 years older than I, was the golden child from the very beginning. While she got piano lessons, dance recitals, and customized birthday parties, I got leftovers, leftover attention, leftover affection, and eventually, leftover space. Linda, my mother, had no real interest in parenting again by the time I came along. She was a corporate powerhouse, a woman who thrived in tailored suits and early morning boardrooms. Mark, my father, existed in her shadow, an agreeable man who never dared contradict her. Parenting, to them, was something you outsourced: tutors, instructors, babysitters. And when that didn't work, you threw money at the problem. Luckily for me, there was one exception: my Aunt Kathy. My mom's younger sister, who had no children of her own, took it upon herself to make sure I didn't vanish completely. Kathy picked me up from school, helped with homework, and made time to ask what I liked and cared about. She saw me in a way my parents didn't, or maybe refused to. It didn't take long for me to start splitting my identity in two. I was Emily at school, bright and eager. I was Emmy at Kathy's house, warm and welcome. At home, I was a quiet ghost in a house with expensive wallpaper. Still, I managed to carve a space for myself. I focused on my studies, kept my head down, and dreamed of college, of a life that didn't revolve around being an afterthought. Then came the bombshell. A week before my birthday, Jessica announced she was pregnant. Not just pregnant, but engaged to a guy she had known for less than 6 months. The family went into full celebration mode as if this was the royal birth. Mark beamed. Linda practically glowed. They started planning a wedding, a nursery, and apparently a room swap. My room. I noticed little things at first: whispers behind closed doors, measuring tape left on my desk, furniture catalogs open to cribs and changing tables. When I asked about it, I was met with evasive smiles. And then on the morning of my birthday, they laid it out like it was good news. Jessica and her husband would be moving in. The baby needed the bigger room. I, now officially an adult, would need to start figuring things out. No warning. No discussion. Just a half-hearted brunch, a pair of pity gift cards, and a cardboard box of my belongings waiting by the door. What they didn't know, what no one expected, was that I wasn't leaving empty-handed. And I wasn't going quietly. The moment I stepped out of the house, cardboard box under one arm and a cheap duffel bag slung over my shoulder, I felt the weight of the silence hit me. They didn't even follow me outside. Not a goodbye. Not a second glance. It was like ejecting me from their life had been penciled into their schedule. But what they didn't realize was that I'd seen this coming, maybe not exactly like this, but something close. I'd been preparing. Saving. Planning. I wasn't the naive teenager they thought I was. Kathy knew immediately. I called her from the bus stop just a few blocks away, my voice even and steady. She didn't hesitate. Told me to come straight to her place. She'd always kept the guest room ready, though she never said it out loud. It was like she'd known to. When I walked through her front door, she didn't ask what happened. She just hugged me tight and let me put the box down in her living room. That was the first time I let myself feel anything: rage, disbelief, relief, all tangled together. We spent the evening talking. I told her everything about the brunch, the gift cards, the smug way Jessica acted like this was perfectly normal. Kathy didn't flinch. She just listened, nodded, and made me spaghetti like she used to when I was a kid. By the end of the week, I'd enrolled in a local community college, something I'd been researching in secret for months before. I already had good grades, a strong application, and most of the paperwork filled out. I just needed an address. Kathy gave me that. She gave me stability. A week later, I picked up a part-time job at a nearby bookstore. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and gave me something to focus on besides the ache in my chest. Every day felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Meanwhile, my parents sent me one follow-up text. Just one. It said, "Hope you're doing okay. Let us know when you're ready to visit." I stared at the message for a full minute, then deleted it. No reply. They didn't deserve one. Jessica never reached out. Not even once. And I didn't expect her to. She always operated in a bubble where consequences bounced off like rain on a windshield. But I wasn't going to sit around waiting for apologies. I had a plan, and for the first time, I was going to live a life that didn't orbit around their convenience. What they took from me was just a room. What was I building now? A future. 3 weeks after moving in with Kathy, something shifted. The fog of shock and betrayal began to clear, replaced by something sturdier: direction. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was starting to live. Community college wasn't where I thought I'd end up, but I quickly realized it wasn't a downgrade, it was a launchpad. I signed up for business and marketing courses, started tutoring on the side, and began to meet people who saw potential in me instead of treating me like a placeholder. For the first time, my ideas weren't dismissed. They were heard. Kathy, ever intuitive, gave me just the right balance of space and support. She let me rebuild at my own pace. She helped me budget my bookstore earnings, taught me how to cook more than microwave ramen, and offered advice only when I asked. Her house became more than a haven, it became a place where I didn't have to earn my right to exist. Back at the bookstore, I started gaining trust quickly. My manager asked me to help with the monthly displays and eventually gave me a few responsibilities with ordering and social media. It felt good, earning things on merit instead of being handed leftovers. And then came the letter. A thick white envelope with my parents' return address. I stood at Kathy's mailbox for a full minute, staring at it like it might explode. Inside was a typed letter, impersonal and cold, almost like it had been written for a client, not a daughter. It said they hoped I was settling in, that they understood things had gotten confusing lately, that Jessica's baby was due soon and they wanted to know if I'd consider coming home to help out for a while, just until things calmed down. No apology. No acknowledgement of what they did. Just a request for me to put my life on hold for the family that cast me aside. I didn't respond. I didn't tear it up either. I folded it, slid it back into the envelope, and tucked it into a drawer next to my financial aid paperwork and course outlines. A reminder of what I was walking away from and what I was walking toward. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. I was just done pretending their version of family worked for me. I wasn't going back. Update. It's been about 2 months since I got that letter from my parents, and I've thought about it nearly every day, but not because I've been debating whether to go back. It's been the opposite. The more time passes, the more surreal it feels that they really thought I'd return without a word of remorse. Meanwhile, life at Kathy's has taken on a rhythm that feels real. Stable. I've picked up more hours at the bookstore and even landed a freelance gig managing a small business's social media page. It's nothing flashy, but it's mine. Everything I have now is built on my terms, and that makes it feel 10 times more valuable. Kathy's been more than just supportive, she's been transformative. She encouraged me to start journaling, and through that process, I've realized how much of my childhood was spent walking on eggshells. My parents never hit me, never screamed, but emotional neglect is its own kind of bruise. The kind that doesn't fade when you leave, it fades when you finally feel safe. One night, Kathy and I were watching a movie when my phone buzzed. Another message from my mom. This one wasn't about coming home. It was a photo of Jessica holding the newborn, my niece. The caption said, "She looks just like you did. Thought you'd like to see." I didn't reply. I don't hate the baby. She didn't choose this. But I also won't let her become a tether they use to pull me back into a family dynamic I've worked so hard to escape. What followed next surprised me. A few days later, my father called Kathy directly. She answered on speaker. He wanted to know if I was okay, said they were worried because I hadn't responded. Kathy told him plainly and calmly that I was thriving, that they'd know that too if they'd ever truly paid attention. He tried to be diplomatic. Said they missed me. That they wanted to reconnect. But he still didn't mention the eviction. He still didn't acknowledge what they'd done. And that silence said more than any apology ever could. When Kathy asked me what I wanted to do, I didn't hesitate. I said nothing. I want to keep going. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not the daughter they remember. I'm not the stand-in they expect to come back and play nanny, housekeeper, or second-class citizen. I'm Emily. And I'm rebuilding something better. That wraps up the first part. The second part will be in the next video, and you'll find it in the description or my profile once it's released. Stay tuned. Hope you enjoyed this story as much as I do. Help this small channel grow by hitting that like button, subscribing, and sharing with your friends. Every bit of support means the world. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.